We have Ricardo Cabello, as known as Mr. Doob, here with us today, and we are so honored to have you. Thank you, Ricardo.
My pleasure.
So you're being presented with the Lifetime Achievement Award today for your extensive history of content creation, from designing to developing and creating what you are so well known for, 3JS, which is pushing forward the developer community and the immersive technology industry as a whole with optimizing 3D graphic animation and interactivity on the web. So thank you so much for everything you're doing in that effort.
And again, it's mostly my pleasure.
And we all have to know, and I'm sure you get this question a lot, how did you adopt the name Mr. Doob?
Right. It's actually not a super interesting story, but it's just basically back in the days of like the is it Messenger or MSN, like Microsoft MSN, like just a chat, like I will just put like just to tell my coworkers that I was working. I'm always like wearing headphones, so I will put like just a face basically. So it's two eyes and like a mouth originally, and then like a D and a B is just the headphones. So then they will be aware that I was just like working, but I was listening to music. So it was a way of like, I guess it was before emojis, so I was just using that. And then at some point, someone just called me Mr. Doob, and that kind of stuck with me. And I checked the domain, and it was available, so I just bought it, and that's about it. Like this.
And then on that, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Let us get to know you a little bit, and kind of what led you in your journey to where you are today.
Wouldn't know very well where to start, but yeah, like I'm originally from Spain, from Barcelona, and I moved to London like in 2003, something like that. And at that point I was at that point I was basically like working as a I ended up working as a Flash developer for like marketing websites, like for like Chanel and the Dolce & Gabbana and Nicki Minaj and like clients like that, and an agency here. And it was during that time that I slowly was starting to like learn. Like I'm actually originally like a graphic designer, but it was slowly with Flash I was learning to program by doing like some parts on some websites, and eventually those bits of websites became like the whole Flash, like what we remember like the Flash days. And slowly I was intrigued by trying to do 3D graphics also with Flash. So it was at the time with Paper Vision 3D, like was another library for Flash that I was using at the time. Also like combined with like a hobby that I had, it's called the demo scene, which is a lot of like real-time 3D graphics, which I used to do 3D modeling for. Somehow all that combined into like, all right, I'm gonna do my own 3D engine and my own 3D library. And started doing it in Flash, and eventually when there was the whole HTML5 like Flash to HTML5 transition, I decided to move it to I decided to do to HTML5 and to JavaScript, and yeah, that's kind of like the whole thing started like. But yeah, originally it was just a graphic designer that kind of got forced to web development.
So tell us about your project Under Neon Lights. It was a fantastic experience built on WebVR, which is now deprecated and unplugged and replaced with WebXR. And through that process and change, a lot of great WebVR experiences and projects were kind of lost. What's happening there?
Under Neon Lights, it was a music video that we did for Within for Chemical Brothers. We did it. It was when like WebVR was starting to land on browsers. Like WebVR was the first version of the API. It was basically the first version of the WebXR API. At the time we didn't have controllers. So when they added controllers, like, oh, we didn't thought of that when we did the WebVR API, and it's very difficult for us to add this thing into it. So they started designing the new version of the API, which was like WebVR 2, but eventually, because AR was also happening, we're like, well, I guess we're gonna try to do something that also works for AR and VR. So eventually they renamed it to WebXR, but it was supposed to be WebVR 2. The issue was that like all those, like WebVR was never part of the web itself. It was something that they put on browsers. You had to like kind of enable it, or you had to like put some code on your website in order to enable it. Some headsets supported it, but it was all experimental. It was not stable. It was never stable. Like they made it very clear that the WebVR was never going to be part of. Like was not something that we're going to support forever. It was only experimental time. So some projects have been updated to work on WebXR, but sadly, like some of the project that was done for WebVR, we won't be able to see them again.
Yeah, well, that's so sad. Well, but I'm glad that with this new WebXR API that we're going to be able to create more robust experiences. That hopefully now this is the new standard going forward. We're not going to lose any other precious material, and we're just going to continue to thrive and prosper from here.
I hope so too.
And then last piece of advice for any designers and developers that are looking to enhance their creations for the immersive web.
I think they will benefit from trying to learn like cinematography, like all those skills that are like more like, what to put lights, or what to put like the camera, like how to move the camera. So at that point is skills of like how to set up a scene and like where to put the camera, where to put the lights, and where to put the objects, and how to animate things. That's what at the end of the day is like what the user is going to see. It's not going to see, it doesn't matter which engine it's using at the end of the day. It's really how the camera is behaving when you move the mouse, or what are the interaction is. So spending more time on that and learning on the visual side, and not so much of like, the engine at the end of the day is going to do the same thing, but you can do something really pretty with an engine that is very simple. But so it's more learning like visual skills or cinema skills rather than programming, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just another example of how all of these media and design and development skills are kind of coming together to kind of enhance this overall world of media and immersive media, and then specifically on the web, as we're discussing today. But thank you so much, Ricardo, for joining us today. It's been an honor, and thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your building this community for WebXR, and congratulations again on the Lifetime Achievement Award for the Polys. We look forward to seeing you at the show.
Thank you.